Good morning, everybody. Hope all is well with the world with you today. Now, this video might be a tad bit longer than my normal videos, but please stick around to the end. You might get some information that might just make you look at Summerwells' disappearance and what may have happened to her in a whole new light. So, stick around, guys, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Here we go. Now, this is Andrea Yates. She is an American woman from Houston, Texas, who confessed to drowning her 5 children in their bathtub on June 20th, 2021. Her husband's name was Rusty, and her 5 children were Noah, Mary, John, Luke, and Paul. Nearly 21 years ago, Andrea Yates horrified the nation when she confessed to drowning her 5 young children in the bathtub of their suburban Houston home on June 20th, 2021. Yates, who was 37 years old at the time, suffered from severe postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and schizophrenia, according to court testimony. She waited for her husband Rusty to go to work. When he was gone, she began to drown her children one by one. After she drowned the children, she called 911 repeatedly and then called her husband and told him to come home from work. Yates was charged with 5 counts of capital murder. Her high-profile 2002 trial made national news. It was broadcast live and even landed on the cover of People magazine. But despite the fact that Yates confessed to the killings, the complex case had several twists and turns. The prosecution pushed for the death penalty and primarily focused on the victims: Noah 7, John 5, Paul 3, Luke 2, and Mary was 6 months. But the defense contended that Yates's depression and psychosis caused her to kill her children, and argued that she needed intensive mental health treatment rather than incarceration. Her husband, Rusty, initially stood beside her. She loved those kids, Rusty said to the crowd of media in 2001. He later divorced Yates and remarried. A 2002 jury convicted her of capital murder, but sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Yates's attorney successfully appealed the case, and the verdict was overturned. After a 2006 retrial, Yates was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Since January of 2007, Yates has been at Kerrville State Hospital, a mental facility in Kerrville, Texas. Although she was reprimanded to the mental facility more than 15 years ago, Yates can undergo a review every year to see if she's competent to leave the facility. Now, 57 Yates opts each year to waive her right to be reviewed. People confirms that she has never undergone review, choosing instead to continue treatment. Details of her treatment have not been released. Her defense attorney, George Parnham, keeps in contact with Yates and says that Yates is happy in the facility. Parnham previously told People that Yates grieves for her children every day, often watching home videos of the kids who she killed. She also spends her time making aprons, cards, and gifts in the craft room and anonymously selling them. The money goes to the Yates Children Memorial Fund, which was founded by Parnham and his wife, Mary, and dedicated to women's mental health, particularly postpartum mental health. And this is Andrea Yates in 2001. At Yates's 2002 trial, Chuck Rosenthal, the district attorney in Harris County, asked for the death penalty. Yates was convicted of capital murder, but the jury refused the death penalty option. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. The verdict was overturned on appeal in light of false testimony by one of the supposed expert psychiatric witnesses. On July 26, 2006, a Texas jury in her retrial found that Yates was not guilty by reason of insanity. She was consequently committed by the court to a high-security North Texas State Hospital in Vernon, where she received medical treatment and was a roommate to NanasAngelsYT, another woman who committed infanticide by killing her infant daughter. In January 2007, Yates was moved to Kerrville State Hospital, a low-security state mental hospital in Kerrville, Texas. At the time of the murders, the Yates family was living in the Houston suburb of Clear Lake City. Yates continued under Dr. Saeed's care until June 20th, 2001, when Rusty left for work, leaving her alone to watch the children against Dr. Saeed's instructions to supervise her around the clock. Rusty's mother, Dora Yates, had been scheduled to arrive an hour later, take over for Andrea. In the space of that hour, Andrea Yates drowned all 5 children. Yates started with John, Paul, and Luke, and then laid them in their bed. She then drowned Mary, whom she left floating in the tub. Noah came in and asked what was wrong with Mary. He then ran, but Yates soon caught and drowned him. She left him floating in the tub and laid Mary in John's arms in the bed. She then called the police repeatedly, saying she needed an officer but refused to say why. She then called Rusty and told him that he needed to come home right away. In August 2004, Rusty filed for divorce, stating that he and Yates had not lived together as a married couple since the day of the murders. The divorce was granted on March 17, 2005, after which Rusty began dating his second wife, Laura Arnold. They married on March 25, 2006, and had 1 son. Arnold filed for divorce in 2015. Yates confessed to drowning her children prior to her second trial. She told Dr. Michael Wilner that she waited for Rusty to leave for work that morning before filling the bathtub because she knew he would have prevented her from harming them. After the murders, police found the family dog locked up. Rusty advised Wilner that it had normally been allowed to run free and was so when he had left the house, leading the psychiatrist to allege that she locked it in a cage to prevent it from interfering with her killing the children. One by one, Rusty got a family friend, George Panum, to act as her attorney. Although psychiatrists for both of the prosecution and the defense agreed that Yates was severely mentally ill with one of several psychotic diseases at the time she killed her children, the state of Texas asserted that she was, by legal definition, aware enough to judge her actions as right or wrong. Despite her mental defect, the prosecution further implied spousal revenge as motive for the killings, despite the conclusion of the defense experts that there was no evidence to support such a motive. Although the original jury believed she was legally aware of her actions, they disagreed that her motive was spousal revenge. According to trial testimony in 2006, Dr. Saeed advised Rusty Yates not to leave his wife unattended. However, Rusty began leaving her alone with the children in the week leading up to the drownings for short periods of time, apparently believing it would improve her independence despite her doctor's instructions. Rusty had announced at a family gathering the weekend before the drownings that he had decided to leave Yates home alone for an hour each morning and evening so that she would not become totally dependent on him and his mother for her maternal responsibilities. Yates's brother, Brian Kennedy, claimed during a broadcast of CNN's Larry King Live that Rusty expressed to him in 2001 while transporting her to a mental treatment facility that all depressed people needed was a swift kick in the pants to get them motivated. Yates's mother expressed shock when she heard of Rusty's plan while at the gathering with them, saying Yates wasn't stable enough to care for the children. She noted that Yates demonstrated she wasn't in her right mind when she nearly choked Mary by trying to feed her solid food. According to authors Susan Spencer and Susan O'Malley, who investigated her story in great detail, it was during a phone call Dr. Saeed made to Rusty during the breaking news of the killings that Saeed first learned that she was not being supervised full-time. Yates's first psychiatrist, Dr. Starbranch, says that she was shocked to disbelief when during an office visit with the couple, they expressed a desire to discontinue her medication so she could become pregnant again. She warned and counseled them against having more children and noted in the medical record 2 days later, apparently patient and husband plan to have as many babies as nature will allow. This will surely guarantee future psychotic depression. Nevertheless, Yates became pregnant with her fifth child, Mary, only 7 weeks after being discharged from Dr. Starbranch's care. Rusty stated to the media he was never told by psychiatrists that Yates was psychotic, nor that she could harm the children. Had he known otherwise, he would have never had more children. If I'd known she was psychotic, we'd never have even considered having more kids, he told the Dallas Observer. However, Yates revealed to her prison psychiatrist, Dr. Melissa Ferguson, that prior to their last child, she had told Rusty she did not want to have sex because Dr. Starbranch had said she might hurt her children. Rusty, she said, simply asserted his procreative religious beliefs, complimented by her as a mother, and persuaded her that she could handle more children. O'Malley highlighted Rusty's continuing sense of unreality regarding having more children. During the trial, he had successfully maintained the position that Yates would be found innocent. He had fantasies of having more children with her after she was successfully treated in a mental health facility and released on the proper medication. He worked his way through various fixes for their damaged lives, such as a surrogate motherhood and adoption, horrified her family, attorneys, and Houston psychiatrists before giving in to reality. Rusty contended that as a psychiatrist, Dr. Said was responsible for recognizing and properly treating Yates' psychosis, not a medically untrained person like himself. He claimed that despite his urges to check her medical records for prior treatment, Dr. Said had refused to continue her regimen of an antipsychotic Haldol, the treatment that had worked for her during the first breakdown in 1999. The real question to me is, how could she have been so ill and the medical community not diagnose her, not treat her, and obviously not protect our family from her? Rusty testified that he never knew that she had visions and heard voices. He said he never knew she had considered killing the children. Neither did Dr. Said, even though the delusions could have been found in medical records from 1999. He reluctantly prescribed Haldol, the same drug that worked in a drug cocktail for her in 1999. But after a few weeks, he took her off the drug, citing his concerns about side effects. Though her condition seemed to be worsening 2 days before the drownings, when Rusty drove her to Dr. Said's office, he testified that the doctor refused to try Haldol longer or return her to the hospital. Rusty added that his wife was too sick to be discharged from her last stay in the hospital in May of 2001. He said he noticed the staff lower their heads as if in shame and embarrassment, turning away without saying a word. The hospital had no other choice due to the 10-day psychiatric hospitalization insurance constraints of their provider, Blue Cross Blue Shield, subcontracted by Milligan Health Service. Religious influences. This is where it gets interesting. Media outlets allege that Michael Wernicke, an itinerant, I can't pronounce that, preacher whom Rusty had met while attending Auburn University, bore some responsibility for the deaths due to certain teachings which were found in his newsletter titled The Perilous Times, which the Yateses had received on occasion and which was entered into the evidence at the trial. Both Wernicke and Rusty have rejected these accusations. Rusty said that his family's relationship with Wernicke was not that close and that Wernicke did not cause her delusions. Wernicke maintained that his correspondence with them was intended to help them strengthen their marriage and find the love that he says his own family had found in Jesus. Both men agreed that the alleged connection between his message and her mental state was nothing more than media-created fiction. While in prison, Yates stated that she had considered killing the children for 2 years, adding that they thought she was not a good mother and claiming that her sons were developing improperly. She told her jail psychiatrist, "It was the seventh deadly sin. My children weren't righteous. They stumbled because I was evil. The way I was raising them, they could never be saved. They were doomed to perish in the fires of hell. Now, guys, sorry this is so long, but the point being is that Andrea Yates, we remember the story. Well, I remember the story, and it was that the angels and demons and whatever, the voices she was hearing was telling her that she had to save her children so that I believe the demons wouldn't come and get them or possess them. And the only way to save them was to send them back to Jesus, send them back to God, I believe was how the story went. That's the basics of it. My thing is, and there's plenty of parents out there that have done the same thing, they claim psychosis, they claim mental illness, whatever, for why they've done what they've done. Some of it's real, I'm sure. Some of it's just so they don't go to prison for the rest of their life. But keep that in mind. Keep in mind the voices that Andrea Yates was hearing when she got rid of her children. I don't remember for positive whether it was angels that she claimed that was talking to her or whom, but I do remember that she was hearing the voices and they were telling her to save her children by getting rid of them. But that's the basis of why she done what she done. She was hearing voices. She was supposedly saving her children from the demons. Now, guys, listen to this little audio clip. Keep in mind, I have taken out, I got this off Prayer Garden's channel where she was playing it and talking with Don B the other day. Now, I've cut all that out. And if you hear, clips in there, that's where I cut Prayer Garden and Don B out where they were talking. I believe this was an interview that donwells did with Dolly Vision. So I give Dolly Vision the credit for this. Just listen to it, and then I'll be right back with you.
I already knew that she was put into a car and taken from here.
Yeah.
I knew that from day one. I knew that from the second that it happened, but trying to explain that to the police is like trying to talk to a brick wall.
I remember you told me that you had the weird feeling. You want to explain to like the people listening about that weird feeling you had
I will.
beforehand?
It's not a weird feeling. It's when the angel tells you that something is going to happen to your kid or your daughter, which is what happened to me, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't understand at the time. But I knew 4 to 5 months prior that something was going to happen this summer because an angel told me, and not with words. But you can take it for what you want. You can say that if you want to, y'all can just say that I'm crazy, or you can all can say that I'm just making up a story.
No, I don't think it's crazy at all.
No, not you, Dolly. I'm just saying your audience can say whatever they want about me.
I didn't know it.
But not you, sir. But 4 to 5 months prior, something told me that something was going to be happening this summer. And I knew something was going to happen. I asked Candace to please keep a sharp eye on her because something was going to happen. And then that picture that y'all might see on the internet or whatever, where I was holding her when she was sleeping. And I knew something told me at that moment that the time was short at hand, that something, whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen soon. And this is probably a week or two prior to her disappearance. And I was crying, and I knew that, and I said, Lord God, please. She was asleep in my arms, and I was like, Summer, I love you. I love you so much. And I just can't believe it. But I knew the time was short. So the day that she disappeared, and then when I come home from work and I drove to the bottom property and I see my neighbors and my boys searching for her, I knew at that instance that what had been searching for her, I knew at that instance that what was told to me by an angel that I assume was an angel told me that it had been fulfilled. And I could not explain that to the police or anybody else, but I knew that she.
Now, Once again, I'll apologize for this being so long, but you have to set up the scene with the Andrea Yates case because she was hearing angels or demons, or she was hearing voices, or like Don said, I was hearing angels or something. I mean, that's what he said. I was hearing angels or something, and they were telling him the same as with Andrea Yates. She had been hearing these voices and feeling these feelings 2 years prior to what she actually did. 2 years before June 20th on 2001. Donwells had evidently been hearing voices, angels, demons, voices, whatever, 4 to 5 months before something bad happened to Summer. And he says they're telling him something bad is going to happen. Now, first of all, I want to say, I totally believe in miracles. I totally believe in divine intervention. But in my opinion, so I'm not saying that he didn't hear angels, okay? But in my opinion, and I've spoke with a minister about this also, but divine intervention is sort of like, you know, you're doing something bad, you need to change this, or something bad will happen. You know, your actions are, not worthy of God. So the thing you love the most will be taken from you if you don't change your ways. That's, to me, in my opinion, that's divine intervention. That's not what Don says. Don says the angels just came down, told him something bad's going to happen to your kid, period. Basically, there's nothing you can do about it. You just need to be ready. It's going to happen. So, you got one or two choices, people. You believe that Don really had an angel come down and talk to him, or a demon whispering in his ear, convincing him of this, in which case he would be experiencing psychotic delusions, or he really had an angel come and talk to him. And like I said, an angel's not going to just come down and say, God says your baby is going to die, and that's it. Why would God do that? God wouldn't. He might send divine intervention. But like the minister that I spoke with, normally when God does that, it's for like whole nations or whole races of people. When they come down and say, this bad thing is going to happen if you don't do this or do that. Normally for one small child, God does not send an angel down to tell that parent, your child, something bad's going to happen to your child, and that's just it. So maybe Don was hearing something. Of course, he says that they didn't speak it in words. So I guess he was hearing it in his brain or thinking it in his brain. To me, guys, that sounds like schizophrenia. I mean, look it up online. If you don't take my word for it, look it up online. Psychosis. Sleep psychosis could cause that too. And I do know that for a fact. Sleep psychosis, where you do not get any sleep for days on end, can cause you to turn psychotic. We do know out of Don's mouth himself that he had a problem with drugs that can and do keep you awake for days on end. Was he suffering from some type of psychosis? Was he suffering from schizophrenia, where he was having angels or demons or whatever, as he puts it, telling him something bad was going to happen to his baby? I mean, that's what Andrea Yates heard. She had to save her kids from the demons. This is just my opinion. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not even a psychologist or a counselor. But guys, there's no sign, no evidence, no nothing of what happened to Summer Moon Utah Wells on June the 15th, 2021. We do have two parents who have not acted the way that the majority of the world believes they should act when their child goes missing. We have a father who has been telling us all along, in one term or another. First of all, he was telling us that he's hearing voices, or that something or someone, an angel, is telling him something bad is going to happen to your child within 4 or 5 months before it happens. Then we have the same father telling us 3 days after she is gone that he will see her in the resurrection. This same father has made mention that she is fish food, that she is passed. He's talked about how she's been harmed and beaten and possibly abused in the worst way. I don't know exactly how to state what I'm trying to say, but think about it, guys. Look up psychosis. Look up schizophrenia. Look up drug use and the effects that it can have on the human body after years of use. We have no other explanation for what happened with Summer. Is this a possibility? Was the angels / demons / something convincing Don that he needed to save his child? Just like in the story of Andrea Yates and her 5 children. Everybody says Don loved his child. He loved his child. Well, if that's the case, if there was something telling Dawn that she was in harm's way, that she was going to be harmed, something bad was going to happen to her, what would he do to save the child he loved so much? Was he hearing voices? Was he hearing demons? Because I myself truly do not believe that an angel come and told him something bad was going to happen to her, that baby girl. You tell me what you think in the comment box below. Honestly and truly think about this, guys. And don't just automatically jump to his defense. Think about it. It happens more than you can ever know with other parents out here. Something happened to this baby. We've got to find out what happened to her. We've got to find out who did what to her. And if Dawn didn't do something to her, then what's whispering in his ear? What's telling him that bad things are going to happen to his child? I myself happens to think that Dawn needs to go and be thoroughly mentally checked. I'm not calling him crazy. I'm saying the man we know is a narcissistic person. He has a narcissistic personality with all the drug use and everything else. Could psychosis have set in? Is he suffering from schizophrenia? It usually sets in later in life. I'm going to shut up now, guys. Y'all tell me what you think, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great day. God bless.